Four-time world champion Max Verstappen has just made a revelation that is sending shockwaves throughout the Formula One universe. At a time when everyone expected to see him desperate to save his title hopes, the Dutchman surprised everyone by doing the unthinkable. He openly acknowledged that his current string of disappointing performances did not take him by surprise. But does this apparent acceptance hide much more significant revelations about the fate of Red Bull and Max's own career in the sport? And the question that won't go away: are we witnessing the beginning of the decline of one of the most remarkable hegemonies in the contemporary era of Formula One? Let's analyze the data that is causing widespread astonishment. Max Verstappen, the same competitor who for the past 4 years has shown almost supernatural powers behind the wheel, has not reached the podium in 4 consecutive Grand Prix races. To understand the magnitude of this situation, we need to go back to 2019 to find a comparable streak in the Dutch driver's career. We are talking about the same individual who turned Formula One into a one-man show for years in a row, subjugating his opponents in an almost humiliating manner. At the height of his supremacy, Max won 15 of the 22 races in a single season, setting records that seemed unattainable for future generations. The most dramatic moment of this decline came at the Hungaroring, where Max crossed the finish line in 9th place, in a performance where even he couldn't hide his frustration. And here comes the aspect that many are overlooking. Historically, Red Bull has always shown a capacity for recovery on Friday nights, making extraordinary changes that turned disastrous weekends into memorable triumphs. This time, even that usual magic didn't work. The Milton Keynes team, renowned worldwide for its quick response and flexibility, seemed completely disoriented throughout the Hungarian stage. This leads us to a disturbing thought. Could Red Bull's problems be much deeper than we realize? Helmut Marko, traditionally the first to come to Max's defense in any circumstance, finally raised the white flag. The Austrian advisor, famous for his stubbornness and unwavering confidence, publicly announced that the 4-time champion's title hopes were over. When Marko gives up the fight, it means that the situation has truly reached its most critical point. And the data confirms this harsh reality. Oscar Piastri is 97 points ahead, and he's not even in first place in the championship. To put this into perspective, Max would need to win virtually every remaining race while his competitors score no points, a scenario that is close to impossible considering the current competitive level of the grid. This is where the situation becomes truly intriguing and possibly somewhat alarming for Red Bull fans. Max is not just losing races, he is losing control of the story. His own statements show an almost Zen-like acceptance of the situation. It's no surprise, obviously, considering the challenges we're currently facing. This is not the language of a competitor desperate to regain lost ground. It is the statement of someone who has already accepted that this season is over for him. But could this apparent serenity be masking a much more elaborate strategy? To understand what is really going on, we need to take a closer look at the technical obstacles that are plaguing Red Bull. The RB21, the car that was supposed to represent the natural progression of a dominant machine, is behaving like a completely different project. Max was accurate in characterizing the difficulties. Lack of grip at low and medium speeds, complications that cannot be solved simply with tactics or last-minute corrections. We are dealing with fundamental design problems, the kind that take months to solve. The vehicle's aerodynamics themselves seem to have followed the wrong development path, resulting in a package that simply does not adapt to the specific characteristics of each track. However, there is another aspect of this crisis that is being overlooked: the effect on the internal dynamics of the organization. Laurent Mekies, the new team principal who took over from Christian Horner, is facing his first major storm at the helm of Red Bull. How will he manage this situation? How will he keep the team's spirits high when even the lead driver admits that the circumstances are not favorable? More significantly, how will he explain to Red Bull GmbH the millions invested in a project that is clearly not working properly? And here arises a question that few are addressing. What will be the psychological effect of this situation on Max? For 4 years, he has become accustomed to being virtually unbeatable. Now, for the first time since establishing himself as the ruler of Formula One, he is experiencing the bitter taste of prolonged mediocrity. How will this influence his mindset? How will it impact his professional choices? Because let's be realistic, a driver of Max's caliber will not accept continuing to fight for scattered points indefinitely. Rumors are already swirling about possible changes in the driver market, and the Dutchman's name always comes up in the most daring speculation. Information from a recent survey reveals that more than 3/4 of Formula One enthusiasts agree with Marco. Max is out of the title race. This is devastating for the Red Bull brand, which has built its entire sports marketing strategy around the Dutchman's image of invincibility. When your own fans consider you defeated with 10 races still to go, it's because the decline has been genuinely spectacular. The Austrian corporation, which invested billions in Formula One precisely to obtain this image boost, now faces a credibility crisis that could affect much more than just sporting results. Meanwhile, on the other side of the paddock, McLaren and Ferrari are making the most of every moment of this opportunity. Lando Norris, who for years was considered a skilled driver but without a competitive car, now finds himself leading the championship with a McLaren that seems to have discovered the ideal formula. And Lewis Hamilton, in his first season with Ferrari, is showing that at 40, he still has a lot to contribute, especially when he has a competitive machine at his disposal. Now comes the most captivating part of this whole story. Max is showing brutal maturity and sincerity in recognizing that success comes and goes. This is not the stance of a driver in denial or someone who is falling into despair. It is the stance of someone who is already thinking about the long term, who is already organizing the rebuild. And that should significantly unsettle Red Bull's rivals, because a Max Verstappen motivated by a thirst for revenge can be even more threatening than a dominant Max. The history of Formula One is full of champions who have used difficult seasons as fuel for spectacular comebacks. But there is also a political element to this situation that cannot be overlooked. Red Bull has always been a team that performs better under pressure, finding its best solutions when pushed to the limit. Could this apparent acceptance of defeat actually be a tactic to ease the pressure on the team and allow it to work more productively on developing the car? Max may be playing a much more sophisticated psychological game than it appears on the surface. The big question that remains is, are we witnessing just a transition year or the definitive end of an era? The answer to this question will define not only the future of Red Bull, but the very balance of power in Formula One for years to come. One thing is indisputable. When Max returns to the top, and he will return, this experience of humility will have transformed him into an even more complete and determined competitor. And when that happens, the rivals who are celebrating now may regret not having taken better advantage of this window of opportunity. What do you think? Is Max's apparent calmness really acceptance or a psychological strategy to ease the pressure on him and the team? More importantly, do you believe Red Bull can bounce back this season, or will we only see the real Max back in 2026? Leave your opinion in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any behind-the-scenes analysis of Formula One.